Now, I'd like you please to watch and practice this before we meet on the Sunday morning to talk about the anatomy, kinesiology, and then yoga therapy for the hips. Now, for this class, here are the prompts that you'll need. There's a lot of props this time. One is a sandbag. Now, you don't need to have a proper yoga sandbag. For this, I find a bag of rice can work really well, as you can just get that and put it in a pillowcase and wrap it around. I want it to be about 5 pounds. So that's one. I'm going to have a weight that you'll use for your body, like a sandbag. Now I also have here a slow-mo ball. It's really a slightly deflated Pilates ball. Here I have a Gorgeous ball from Yoga Tune-Up, but you can use any slightly deflated Pilates ball. In this practice at Ajna, what we call this is a slow-mo ball because we move really in slow motion when we use it. So having a slightly deflated Pilates ball, a yoga strap, 2 massage balls of equal size. I have the spiky balls. They don't need to be. You could also use, say, tennis balls or the pink smooth balls. I also have here my thick yoga block, 4-inch block, as well as a yoga bolster and a blanket. And for me, what I do with the blanket, how we'll be starting today is in constructive rest position. I use this as head support. Now, even if you don't normally use a lot of head support, it can be really helpful just to use a thinly folded blanket or towel for head support, just as a little bit of cush to settle into. So we'll begin now, starting in constructive rest. And what I suggest you do is go for a full cush supported constructive rest. So here's what I mean by that. I've got my head support. Now I've also got a yoga strap. And what I'm going to use this for is a little bit of support around my thighs. So what I mean by that is I'm looping my strap in such a way that once I connect it, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tug to see, yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to hold that same firmness. This is going to go around my thighs. So take it below my feet, place it around my thighs. Now it's quite loose for now. That's good because what I now want to do is put a block between my thighs. Now it's up to you, the width that you're choosing. You could choose quite narrow like this, a little wider, or really quite wide. For me, in this structure in my body, it works to go in that medium setting. So that's what I'm placing there. And then I'm just tightening the strap so that it really holds the block in place. So those are 2 things we can do. Now, additional to this, to make it even more supported, which can be so great for the hips, is then placing a little support underneath the knees. Now, we all are different heights, and unfortunately, our yoga props tend to just be standard size. So you can see, does it work to have that bolster at that slight kind of high vertical setting? In this body, I'm about 5'6". It works quite well for me. If I had slightly shorter legs, I might instead just sort of lean it a little bit to the side. If I was a little taller, what I might do is put something underneath it first. So if you can see me here for my constructive rest, which really just means lying on the ground, I've got a block between my thighs, a strap around the thighs, and then a bolster underneath my knees. So full cush variation. Now, what I'm going to do is just lower myself down in my constructive rest. So starting to lower my way down, and then finding for myself that position where the legs aren't too far away, so my feet aren't too far away, nor are they really, really close in. I'm going to find for me what that comfortable place is. And what I invite you to do as you settle into your constructive rest now is just take a few full releasing breaths. So you might, for example, inhale through the nose and exhale out the mouth. Sometimes that feels good. That full releasing breath. And as you do, as you breathe here, settling in, spend a little bit of time Noting how it feels to lie here in this moment. How it feels to lie here in this moment. For folks with achy hips, and that might be because of a hip injury or something degenerative like osteoarthritis, this variation of constructive rest can be so helpful, particularly because it releases the large iliopsoas muscle, that big hip flexor that connects the legs to the spine. So you can even just sort of feel how it would be to allow the legs almost like they were going to sink out to the side, but they won't because they've got the strap there. Or instead, if your tendency is for the knees to knock in, go with that. We've got that block there. So we have this beautiful support here. So settling into your breath and settling into the space right now. May also be helpful to take your hands on the low abdomen, just around the hip bones themselves. And here, just inviting that breath in, that full inhale and full exhale. And if that doesn't feel right to have hands on body, you might instead bring arms out to the side. Absolutely up to you. Taking some time to simply feel the breath. Now, the chakra associated with this area of the hips is our Svadhisthana chakra, our sacral chakra. And that word Svad is sacred, sacred home within ourselves. That's really what our Svadhisthana chakra is all about, cultivating that sacred home within ourselves. The element that's associated with Svadhisthana chakra is water. So we have this fluid quality as we work with the hips and that low back area. That area of Svad, sacred home within ourselves. Something to really consider as we work today is that idea of sacred home, sacred space. So all we'll be working with and doing is cultivating that home within ourselves, that sacred space. If we move in a way that doesn't feel so comfortable for you, you can feel free to back off a little bit. If you're moving in a way that feels really good, you might ask yourself the question, how can I invite in a little bit more fluidity, that fluid motion? And perhaps even balancing it with a concept of stability. So balancing the fluidity with stability. That'll really be our theme today. Let's take another few full breaths here. Connecting with this sacred home, our Svad, within ourselves. Beautiful. Take another 2 or 3 breaths, just like that. Another 2 or 3 breaths, just like that. Beautiful. Now we'll invite in just a little bit of movement. So you might enjoy first wiggling fingers a little bit, maybe the toes, maybe ever so lightly rolling the head from side to side. Doesn't need to be a big movement here. And we're going to stretch out long. So for me, I have this bolster underneath. So I'm just going to reach my feet up and then allow my bolster to be pressed forward. I'm going to keep the block and the strap there for now as I stretch. I can reach the arms up over the head, stretch the heels forward, do a nice long stretch. Good. You might exhale and yawn a little bit, and then see how it would be to release the arms down. Bring the feet flat on the floor. Now, you're welcome to keep the block and the strap here. Here's a reason why you might do that. If you've got any ongoing discomfort in the hips or low back area can be really helpful to keep the strap and the block here just for a little bit of extra love, extra support. If it feels like, oh no, I'm pretty ready to take it out, you can do that now. I'm going to work with our Slimmo ball. So I'm reaching here for that slightly deflated Pilates ball, that Slimmo ball. I'm going to press down through my heels just to lift my bum up. And then I'm placing that underneath the sacrum. So that sacred home, that sacrum of our spine. Now, first, I'll just invite the breath to release, to feel the weight of the pelvis leading in. Now I'm going to lead you through a series of movements here, starting with pelvic tilts. So on your inhale, feel the low back arch. You might even feel hip creases deepen here. Fingertips go there, you can feel that. And then on the exhale, I'm tucking tailbone under. And I'll feel those hip creases flatten a little bit. So on the inhale, low back arches, hip creases deepen. So the lines deepen. On the exhale, I just tuck tailbone under. So moving here softly with the breath, inviting in that fluid quality, that sort of watery nature, fluid quality of the hips of our Svadhisthana. Now, note that as you do these pelvic tilts, you can really keep the back of the hips, back of the pelvis, the sacrum, in contact with that Slimmo ball, that slightly deflated Pilates ball. So you're not actually lifting your bum up. You're just allowing that to shape, to form underneath you. So we have that feeling really like we're being supported in water, almost like floating a little bit. So after a few more of these tilts, you might then see, okay, what other movement would feel good? Here's an idea. You can do a little half circle. So hips roll over to one side, head might follow. There's your inhale. And then exhale, hips move back down through center. We'll move to the other side, inhaling and exhaling back down. So drawing sort of a little smiley face from side to side. The tips of the smile would be moving up towards the ribs. And then the deep part of the smile would be down towards the feet. So hiking hips up, drawing them back down, and then back up. Now, I always like to explore, as I do this, a little connection between hips and shoulders. So I might, for example, try little cactus arms, backs of the hands on the ground, as I just roll here from side to side. You can see for yourself, oh, what position feels good as you explore these little half circles good. And then you can continue adding on. So now I'm rolling in a full circle. So I'm really tying all of these movements together, rolling the hips in a full circle in one direction, finding that nice full breath as I move, taking a wee pause and then rolling in the other direction. So putting all of those movements together in a full circle, one direction, and full circle in the other direction. Yeah, beautiful, good. Nice. So inviting in that quality of fluidity of the hips. And if you'd also like to have more stability, that's what this block and strap can be helpful for. Good. Now we're going to change our movements now, going into windshield wipe your knees. Now this block and strap can be helpful. So I roll over to one side, see my knees going over to one side. And I inhale back up, exhale to the other side. The block can be helpful if you are feeling a little tender or you know your client, it's not so good for them to move too far from side to side. So you can see my range of motion there. But if you want a little bit more opening, I'm just taking my strap and my block out now. Bringing my feet wider, so as wide as the mat or even wider. Now you can see as I roll from side to side with these windshield wiper knees, I have quite a much larger range of motion. So I'm rolling my thighs in, coming up, rolling the other thigh back in. So you can decide for yourself what feels better. Another thing that you can explore, or your client can explore, if this additional range of motion feels okay is a variation of figure 4 pose. So what I'm going to do is cross my ankle over the opposite thigh. So you can see I've got a fairly deep hip stretch happening here. Might take a breath or two. I can bring the foot down, come up and go to the other side. Bringing the bottom ankle over the knee. So here, exploring a slightly deeper hip stretch. Now, reasons why you might not want to do that is if it's not good, for example, for them to have that internal rotation or bringing the leg into the midline. So some folks post-hip replacement surgery, particularly if it's posterior lateral, this won't be such a great movement for them. The others that we've done will be okay. We'll talk about that as we come through the lecture on hips. So let's just explore another couple of movements from side to side, just however you want. Yeah. And then what I'd like you to do is bring your knees back up, narrow the distance between your feet so you can heel toe them. Bring the heels a little closer towards the bum too. This will just help to support the back. Press down through the heels, lift the bum up, remove the slow-mo ball, and then just place it to the side. So you can take a moment first, just checking in, feeling, what does this feel like? How does it feel? You might enjoy bringing knees in towards the chest for a little rock or a little roll. Might also feel good to do some knee circles so you can just see what feels good for me. Now, what we'll be doing next is a series called Hip Stability with a strap. This can be really, really great, particularly for folks with arthritis or other structural issues happening in the hips. So what I'm doing here is I've got my yoga strap, but I need to unloop it now. I want it to be long, so I'm unlooping my yoga strap. Now, my left foot stays on the ground and bring my right knee in, and I place the strap just around the middle of the arch of the foot. So not just around toe mounds, lower, around the middle of the arch of the foot. Now, that leg comes up, kneecap faces me, and then I just draw the leg a little towards me. You can see I've got a little micro bend in my knee. I might even choose to do a deeper bend. Now let's just start by pointing and flexing. So this is a great way to release in the back of the leg. So we'll do that for a few breaths. We're not going for a really deep hamstring stretch, just a gentle release. Now, if you do want to feel more, what you can do is go into dorsiflexion. So heel up, twist towards the face, and then just gently rock the leg a little towards you and a little away. Let's take another breath. Now we'll go for a position of stability for the hip. So my thigh bone is moving away from me till that straight up and down are perpendicular to the floor. So if you have a bend in the knee, you might notice the lower leg bone is not perpendicular. That's okay. We want the thigh bone to be perpendicular to the floor. Now tug down a little bit more. And then here you can start to draw little circles. So I've got two actions here. One is tugging down. The other is drawing this little tiny circle. So great for bringing in that synovial fluid, that lubrication to the hip joint. You can take a little pause and then switch directions. It's going to be particularly helpful if folks feel stiffness in the hips. Take another full breath. Good. Now what we'll do is we're changing the action a bit. I'm going to slide my hands down the strap. Now I'm lowering and raising the legs. So as I inhale, I lower just a little bit. So I exhale, I tug on the belt, leg comes back up. So I'm moving with my breath, inhaling to lower, exhaling to tug back up. And really noting here, so being curious to sound and sensation, can I move in a smooth range of motion? So what I mean by that is sometimes there's a little clicking or clacking that happens in the hip or the low back. And what I might notice is if I lower my leg a little less, so I reduce my range of motion, might be a little smoother. That's ideally what we want to find for our hip stability. So some days it can be not much motion at all, as long as it's smooth. Let's do one or two more like that, one or two more. Now, next time the leg comes up, please keep it up, gently tug down. Take both sides of the strap into the left hand, so opposite hand. Now I'm crossing my right leg over into a twist. Now I have a choice here. The left foot can stay on the ground, or I can roll onto the side of the hip, the side of the knee, so that right leg comes on or towards the ground. Now let's see, can we relax the right shoulder back and down? Take a breath. Give a little tug out through the heel, a little counter tug back on the strap, take a breath. And then from there, it might feel okay to rotate whole thigh bone. So big toe, side of the foot points down to take a breath. It gives me a little stretch in the outer hip. Take another full breath here, just as you are. And then as you're ready, slowly and gently come back through center. And then we'll just switch sides. So now I'm bringing my left foot into the strap, right foot down onto the ground, little bend of the knee as I draw the leg towards me. And then again, I'll start by pointing and flexing. So going for gentle sensation of stretch in the back of the leg. And then if I notice, oh, this feels pretty good, I could do a bit more. I can go into dorsiflexion, heel up, toes towards the face, and then just gently rock the leg a little towards and a little away. So just gently increasing sensation of stretch. Now from here, I'll go again to that position of stability for the hips. So my thigh bone moves away from me till it's straight up and down or perpendicular to the floor. Remember, it doesn't matter what lower leg bone is doing. I want thigh bone to be straight up and down, perpendicular to the floor. Tug down, and then start to draw that little circle in one direction and then the other. Now, the reason we want that thigh bone to be straight up and down, perpendicular to the floor, is just the angle of it when it's here. If we're a little closer towards the body, what you'll notice is you don't get that same sort of massage-like quality for the back of the pelvis. When that thigh bone is straight up and down, perpendicular to the floor, you can get that lovely massage-like quality. Yeah. So taking another breath, just like that. And now we'll prepare here to lower and raise the leg. So hands can slide down the strap. On the inhale, the leg lowers. Exhale, tug it right back up. So moving with breath, slowly. You might notice, oh, it's quite different on this side. For example, you might notice, oh, I get some clicks pretty quick as I lower the leg. So I might lower it less. If you do notice clicks, one strategy is to lower it less. Another one is to tug on the belt a little bit more. So you get this lovely external support. If we weren't using the strap, our large psoas muscle, the iliopsoas, would take over and stabilize this movement. We're instead just trying to let it release a little bit. Let's do one or two more. And then next time the leg comes up, keep it up, gently tug down. Take both sides of the strap into the right hand. So left leg crosses over. We have that choice again. We can keep the foot on the ground, right foot on the ground, or roll onto the side of the hip, the side of the knee. Now I'm going to relax my left shoulder back and down and take a breath. I'll give a little tug out through the leg, a little counter tug back on the strap. I'll take another breath. And then if I want more of a stretch for the outer part of the hip, I can rotate whole thigh bone. So big toe side of the foot points down and I'll take a breath. Good. Now from here, let's slowly and gently just come back through center. You can go ahead and take that strap off, place it to the side, and then do what feels good. So maybe that's knees in towards the chest, maybe some nice hip circles where you separate the knees, push them away from the chest, and then bring them back and back towards the chest. Good. Now we're going to change our position and work a little bit more with this idea of stabilizing the hip by strengthening the outer hip muscles, the abductor muscles. So first, what I'd like you to do, please, is just take a little roll over to one side. Now, we're going to work on our side. So when we side lie, we need to have slightly higher head support than we do when we're lying just on our back. So you can see that if I lie down here, you'll notice my head sort of leans down a bit more. So what I'm going to do is reach for my bolster. I find it to be a really good height. I'm going to take my blanket off, put my bolster here. And then the other prop that I'd like to use is the thick block. So I'm reaching for my thick block. And then what I'm doing here is placing it between the feet. We're going to work with these stabilizing exercises to strengthen the outer hip muscles, our abductors, starting with clamshells. So doing a variation here. So go ahead, lie on your side. Doing the variation with a block between the feet. Now, it can be helpful to bring the knees just even a little closer in towards your chest. So side lying, head is supported, arms wherever feels comfortable. Now I'm going to keep a little bit of connection between the feet. And as I inhale, my top knee lifts up. As I exhale, I lower. So I'm moving with breath, inhaling to lift, exhaling to lower. And if I take my hand on the side of this top hip, I might be able to feel, oh yeah, a little bit of contraction, maybe even a little bit of activity. Sometimes that comes out as a little bit of soreness. That's okay. It's the muscle working here. Something to be aware of is we don't want to lift up the knee too high. So if I lift it up really high, I'll feel myself actually lean back a little bit. And that takes some of that stability work out of these abductors. Now let's do one or two more, keeping it low and slow, movement low and slow. Great. And then what I'd like you to do is just slide that block out of the way. So bottom leg stays bent, top leg straight, so it sort of hangs there in midair. Now we're coming into somatic leg lifts. Now what we'll do is a little bit of rotation. So please turn the toes up, external rotation. Inhale, leg comes up. And then on the exhale, internal rotation, toes down, leg down. So on the inhale, toes up, leg up. On the exhale, toes down, leg down. Now again, if you were to take your hand on that hip, you might feel, oh yeah, there's quite a bit of activity. Again, we want to move low and slow. So although you could perhaps bring the leg up really high here, keeping it fairly low. Let's do one or two more, moving with breath. Now that you start to feel those outer hip muscles now, good. Next time the leg comes down, keep it down, take a little pause. Good. Now we're going to switch over to the other side. So for you, you're welcome to just roll on over and have your back facing. For me, I'm going to lift up and bring my bolster to the other side so you can see me if you want on this side. So I'm again taking my block and I'm placing it between here, the inner part of the foot, lying back down, bringing those knees fairly close towards me. Now, same thing on the inhale, clamshells. I lift that knee up just a little bit. And then on the exhale, I lower it down. So moving here with breath, keeping it low and slow, inhaling up and exhaling down. You might enjoy taking the hand to that top hip just so you can really feel that activity, that waking up of this muscle group. When we work with these abductors, the gluteus medius being one of the very important ones, very good for stabilizing the hip. So we're thinking of fluidity and stability. This is great for that stability part. Now, next time that leg, the knee comes down, keep it down. Again, slide that block out of the way. So I'm just using my leg to slide it out. Now I'm going to straighten my top leg. It can just sort of hang in midair there. On the inhale, toes up, leg up. On the exhale, toes down, leg down. Now I'm moving again in that low and slow rhythm. So moving really slowly, so I really effectively recruit these muscles. And keeping it low, so I stay in that muscle group so that my hips aren't moving. Let's do one or two more, low and slow. Good, last one. Good. Now, next time that leg comes down, give yourself just a little rest. So you might even lie onto your back. This bolster is going to be too high, so you can just get it out of the way if you want. Might feel good to draw the knees in towards the chest. Do some circles again. That might feel nice. So those are the clamshells and somatic leg lifts. I'm going to do one more hip stability exercise, and this is an external rotator strengthener. It's again a sideline. So I'll show you first, and then we can come into it together. So I'm lying on my side once again. Now, This time, what I'm going to do, and you can just take a little wee look first, I'm going to inhale and bring my thigh up a little bit. So if you can see it's angled down when I'm resting, I'm going to bring it up just a little bit so that it's parallel to the ground. From there, keeping the knee bent, I'm going to back my thigh bone up, so just a little bit. And I'm going to externally rotate my thigh bone. So you can sort of imagine inside my hip here, you know, a little doorknob. Imagine that doorknob just opens to externally rotate. I'll then straighten the leg, keeping that external rotation. I'll take a breath, and then I'll lower the leg down. This is, again, a great hip stability exercise. So let's try that together. Knees stacked, whatever side you're on is fine. As you inhale, start to lift the thigh bone up a little bit. Exhale, keeping it bent, back the thigh bone up. Good. Inhale, externally rotate, so knee points up a little bit. Exhale, straighten the leg. Take a pause there, inhaling. And then exhale, lower the leg down. I'm going to do 3 each side. So let's go back to stacked knees. Inhale, bringing the thigh bone up a little bit. Exhaling, backing it up, keeping the knee bent. Inhaling, external rotation. Exhale, straighten the leg. Take another full breath. And then lower the leg down on the exhalation. Last time, this first side. So inhaling, lifting up a bit. Exhaling, backing the thigh bone up. Inhaling, external rotation. Exhale, straighten the leg. Take another breath there. And then exhale, lower the leg down. Beautiful. Okay, let's try the other side. So once again, I'm pushing myself up so I can set up on the other side. You can feel free just to roll onto your other side if you like. So again, side lines. We've got that lovely head support. Knees stacked, knees bent. Now, we start here again with the inhale, lifting thigh bone up. Exhaling, backing it up a little bit. Inhaling, find that external rotation. Exhale, straighten the leg. Inhale, press out a little bit if you like. And then exhale, lower down. Let's try that again, starting with knees stacked. Inhale, lifting it up. Exhaling, back in thigh bone up. Inhaling, little external rotation. Exhale, straighten the leg. Take another full breath. Good. Exhale, lower down. Last time, last side, as you're ready. Inhale, lift up the thigh bone. Exhale, back the thigh bone up. Inhale, little external rotation. Exhale, straighten the leg. Take another full breath. Good. And then exhale, lower down. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, you're probably feeling pretty active, maybe even a little sore in those side hip muscles. So go ahead and move yourself into downward facing dog. You can go ahead and push yourself up. Clear off your mat if you like. And come on up into down dog. If down dog doesn't feel good for you, you can instead do down dog against a chair or a wall, or you can choose to do happy baby on your back instead. I'm going to come into downward facing dog myself, and then give myself this opportunity to stretch out the legs, to stretch out the hips. So I'm walking my dog, bending one knee, pressing the opposite heel towards the ground. If it feels good in your body, you might even invite one leg up, open the hip out to the side for that little stretch, and then bring it down and go on to the other side. Now, if you're in any position other than downward facing dog right now, I'd like you to slowly, please make your way there into down dog. Great. Beautiful. Now, where we're going to move into is into a lunge, bringing the right foot forward. So I'm just going to come onto my fingertips so I can easily bring my right foot forward, bringing my left knee down onto the ground. Now, for me, I have pretty sensitive knees, so I'm going to pad underneath that left knee. Now, lunge is a really great position for the hips. What we can do in lunges sometimes is go a little bit too far. So go ahead into your high lunge, and let's just find pretty level hips. And then go ahead and just roll your shoulders back. Good. So what I mean by going too far in a lunge, sometimes we can lean way forward. I'm not inviting you to do this. I'm just showing you. And for some of us, what that'll do is put a little bit too much stretch into the hip. For some of us, that'll actually be a little bit too much in the low back. So I want you to stay pretty level. You can take your hands onto your hips here. Yeah, beautiful. And then all I'm going to ask you to do here is just take a couple of breaths. You might even press hands into the hips, press down, and lift your chest up. So you can get a little bit of an increased stretch if you want, just by coming into a little tiny back bend. Remembering that foot connection, so you might even feel the toes tug a little bit, or the heel tug in that front foot. Take another breath. Good, and then as you're ready, come on back down. Come into down dog. So what you can do is bring in my hand just to the inside of my foot so I've got some room. Coming on through hands and knees and then into down dog. You can transition, in fact, any way you like. Do a little stretch. And then let's find that lunge on the other side. So I'm lifting up my left leg, bringing it through, bringing that right knee down. I might again pad. So for me, I'm padding the knee. And then as I find that rooting through my front foot, through that left foot, I'll start to lift myself up. Good. So you might again find that little toe tugging. And now, rather than sinking really far forward into the lunge, let's focus instead on keeping those hips fairly level. So hands onto the hips, you might even feel a gentle squeeze in. So hands towards each other. You might also feel a gentle tugging down, sort of that rooting down. Might feel okay to lift up through the chest a little bit. So feeling that little back bend as a way to stretch. I have my toes tucked under here, my back foot. I could try and see what it's like with the top of the foot on the ground. Just compare sensations. This can give a bit more stretch to that back hip. Good. Let's take another breath or two. Just another breath or two here. Beautiful. Now we'll move again back into downward facing dog. So first coming down, bringing my hands to the inside, walking my foot back, and then finding my down dog. Good. Now from here, I'd like you to please make your way into a standing forward fold. So I've just moved my blanket off to the side. And then I'm starting to walk either hands to feet or feet to hands. Doesn't really matter which. Take my hands to my thighs, little bend of the knees. And then I'll make my own way up. So take your time coming all the way up to standing. Might feel good to reach the arms up over the head. Yeah, and then hands can come back to the heart. Okay, so as you're standing, just give yourself a little sway, a little release out. Great. Now we're going to work with our warrior shapes with a little bit of increased connection for the inner and outer thighs. So this is a way for us to increase, again, that stability in the hips. So I'm coming into warrior A, right foot forward, left foot back. Now for me, one way that can help increase stability is to heel toe my right foot to its own side. So I'm not really on that tightrope. I'm really parallel train track kind of thing. And I'm bend into my front knee here. Now I'm taking my right hand to the right inner thigh. And then I'd like you to find a little isometric contraction. So that means equal pressure, hand pressing into thigh, thigh pressing into hand. We'll do that just on the exhale. So go ahead, take an inhale. And then on your exhale, press hand into thigh, thigh into hand. Good. Check that your knee is not changing position. Let's do that again. 3 breaths. Inhale. Exhale, finding hand into thigh, thigh into hand. Good. One more. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Now let's go to the outer thigh. So this was really vastus medialis on the inside of the thigh. We'll go to outer thigh. Vastus lateralis. Now, let's again just see how it would be to find a little pressing, maybe 50% of effort on that exhalation. Good. Yeah, lovely. And then something else we can work with is a little flow with our back arm. It hasn't really been doing that much. So let's just try this. Take an inhale. And then as you exhale, press hand into thigh, thigh into hand, arm comes up. That's it. So inhale, rest, arm comes down. Exhale, finding isometric contraction, arm up. Let's do 2 more like that. So we inhale. And exhale, isometric contraction, arm up. Last one, inhale. And exhale. Go ahead, release that arm down. You can step your feet back together. Take a little pause, maybe a little palm tree to release. Just notice how that feels. And we'll come on to the other side. So it'll be left foot forward now. Right foot back. And again, it might be helpful to heel toe that left foot a little bit out to its own side as you bend into the knee. Now, alignment point for warrior A, center of the kneecap, more or less over the second toe. Now, let's take again, front hand, so left hand to inner thigh, and we'll just work with that isometric contraction on the exhalation. So inhale, exhale, hand into thigh, thigh into hand. Again, inhale, exhale, and one more. Try not to move the alignment of the knee. Good, so that's our vastus medialis, inside thigh muscle. Let's go to the vastus lateralis, outside thigh muscle. Just first, as you spread those toes, find that little grip of the toes. Find a little exhale to isometrically contract here. And now we can do the flow with the other arm as well. So we inhale, we pause. We exhale, press in, arm comes up. Again, inhale, pause, arm can come down. Exhale, effort, arm comes up. Do 2 more. So we inhale and exhale. Beautiful. Last one. Inhale and exhale. Good. Arm can come down now. You can again step those feet back together and then do what feels good for you. So for me, it's a little bit of palm tree. Swaying from side to side. Might feel good for you to even just pause as you want. Great. Now we'll look at another way to connect with strength. So back into warrior A, right foot forward, left foot back. Now, this time what we'll do is see, as you get into that warrior A, walking perhaps the right foot to its own side, connecting with the feet. See how it would be to have an energy, and I've got my arms into this as well, as if you're trying to squeeze the mat towards the center. So what I mean by that, energy as if front foot moves in, as a back foot moves into center. So feeling how it would be pressing in. And you might notice, oh yeah, there's quite a bit of activity that happens, my inner thighs as I do this. This is great for adductor, inner thigh strengthening, pressing in. Now let's experiment. How would it be if we were to instead press out? So as if that front foot presses towards the front, as if that back foot presses towards the back. And for some of us, as we find that, you might feel, a bit more activity in the outer hips. Some of us might even feel a little bit more through the glutes. Great. Now, we're going to put this into a little bit of a flow where we work with pressing in. So this will be the inhale. You can bring the arms into it. So pressing in on the inhale. And then pressing out on the exhale. Let's try that again. Inhale, pressing in. Arms can do whatever you want. Exhale, press out. Let's do that about 5 more times. So inhaling to press in, exhaling to press out. You can even straighten the knee and rebend if you want. Inhale, drawing in. Exhale out. Let's do about 3 more. Go with your breath, finding that stability from the foot right to pelvis. Beautiful. Now, next time you come into that pressing out, that exhalation, just pause there. Release the arms down, roll the shoulders back. Just notice how that feels. Beautiful. And then as you're ready, go ahead and step your feet together. That's it. Take another little sway if you like. Beautiful. Now we'll come on to the other side. So left foot forward, right foot back. We're going to do the exact same flow as before. Now, for stability, because we know we're going to be here for a little while, you might again just heel toe that left foot a little out to its own side. And then just see how it would be with that left foot forward to feel that pressing in. Notice where you feel that in your body, maybe inner thighs, maybe even pelvic floor, maybe toes. And then feel that pressing out. You might feel that a little bit more through the back line of the body, the glutes, the heels. That's it. And then let's try the flow. So it really doesn't matter what you do with your arms. Just feel into what feels good for me. So on the inhale, that pressing in, a little push pull. Exhale, pressing out. Inhale, pressing in. That's it. Exhale, pressing out. Inhale, pressing in. Good. Exhale out. Let's do 3 more. Go with your breath. Finding that little push, pull for activity. Good. Let's do 1 more. Beautiful. As you're ready, you can release the arms down. Step your feet back together and then do again what feels good. Maybe a little sway. That's it. Maybe a little release. Great. Now we're going to work a little bit more still on stability. So the muscle group that we worked on when we did our clamshells, that was here, outer hips, the abductors, the gluteus medius. We're going to get back in there as we do some side lunges here. Now, for side lunges, we're going to have the feet not too far apart. So sort of wider than hip distance, but not too much farther. And then start first, just to see how it would be to bend into one knee. And then lift up and bend into the other. So as you lift up, let the opposite foot press in to lift you up. So what I mean by that is I'm bending into my right knee. I'm going to press into the left foot to lift me up. I'll bend into the left knee, and then I'll press into the right to lift me up. So just going from side to side. So this can be helpful, particularly to see what kind of bend or flexion in the knee feels okay. If you're working with folks that are sensitive in the knees, 2 options. One is they can work with a narrower stance. They can be a little closer. Secondly, if they have a chair in front, it can be really helpful to have a chair in front. So this is our first variation, just leaning from side to side. Okay, come back to center. Now here's the second bit. We're really going to start to activate those side hip muscles. Start to bend into one knee. I'm bending into my right. Now with that left foot, rather than pressing into it, I want you to feel like you could lift it up. Think of this left hip, come onto your tippy toes. And imagine that left hip could actually hike up to bring the leg up and then bring it down. Come onto the other side. So bending into the left knee, the right hip, opposite hip. Imagine you're sort of sucking through a straw. That's your thigh bone. Lift up and then bring it back down. Go to the other side. So lifting up left, like you're sucking up a little straw, coming back down, over, right, lift up, and down. So you don't need to do the side effects, the sound effects, but it can be helpful to move from side to side. So you're really lifting up, very active in the hip from side to side, really drawing thigh bone into you from side to side. Good, let's do 1 more from side to side, 1 more from side to side. And then come back through center. Take a little pause. Okay, check in with how your balance felt. If balance is feeling just a little precarious, go ahead, grab that chair so you have it in front of you or something to hang on to. The other thing you can do is go the other way, using the wall and having a little something to hang on to. We're going to add on another level of difficulty. And this is getting into our gluteus maximus a little bit more and hamstrings. So we bend into the knee. We lift up the leg like we're sucking through a straw. Now we bend the knee as if heel touches towards the bum. It won't. Straighten the leg out, pause, and then bring it back down. So let's try that together. So bending into the right knee. Inhaling, lifting up left, bending the knee. Exhaling, straightening it. Coming back down. Let's do the other side. Inhale, bend the knee. Exhale, straighten the leg. Come on, back down. Inhale. Exhale, down, other side, inhaling, lifting up, bending the knee, exhaling, straightening, pausing to come back down, side to side, inhaling, exhaling to pause to come down. Inhaling, lifting up, bending the knee. Exhaling, extending, pausing to come down. So go ahead and go from side to side. About 2 more times. Again, feel free to hang on to a wall or a chair. Really, it's about waking up this muscle group to support the hips. Good. I'm just doing one more from side to side. I'm doing my right. And I'm coming to end on my left. Good. If you can pause, take a little release out. You know, it feels really good sometimes. It's just to let the hips rock around a little bit. Yeah, almost like you're drawing a infinity symbol or a figure 8 with your hips. Beautiful. Now, where we'll come into next is spread foot forward fold, a spread foot forward fold. So a couple of options. One is to do it on your mat where you widen your feet and then come forward from there, where you might have a block or a bolster in front of you. What can also be really helpful for folks who have a little bit more limited mobility is for them to use a wall or a chair. So I'll just show you this as if this was my chair. Bringing this forward a little bit just so I can have it with me. Is what I can do here is go into my spread foot forward fold, bring my arms onto it, maybe even my forehead onto it, and lean in. So that's one option, showing you a couple of options, and then you can decide, oh yeah, this one feels good. Another option would be to use a wall. So I've got my wall behind me, so you'll see my bottom just for a sec rather than my face. I'm going into that spread foot. And this time what I can do is come about halfway and then feel the crown of the head. So my top of the head is on the ground or on the wall. So maybe even it feels good to release my arms down, relax the shoulders, or maybe I can hang on to the wall. So I'd like you to choose a variation. If you haven't done one of those 2 variations that I showed you that was aside from the mat, so using a chair, using a wall, support yourself to do that. I'm going to come back to use the chair or the stool. So I'm bringing my legs fairly wide apart, big toes turning, little bend of the knee. And then I just start to slightly fold over. I can bring my arms. I can bring my forehead even to rest. Remember, if you're using the wall, what can be very helpful is for the crown of the head, that very top of the head. Think if you're coming into a headstand, that to press against the wall. Now, whatever variation you've chosen for yourself, take a few more breaths there, just inviting in that quality, a little bit more of fluidity of the hips, a little bit of mobility now. Good. Taking another breath or 2. Good. Now just come out very slowly. First, start by rooting into the feet. Bend the knees slightly, take a bit more weight into the heels. Come up just a little bit. So for me, that's sliding my hands off my stool, bringing my hands onto my hips. Take another breath. And then as you're ready, slowly, slowly come all the way back up. Beautiful. Then you can step your feet back together. Lovely. Yeah, you can even give yourself a little bit of a swing. Great. Now we're going to continue with this idea of release of fluidity. I'd like to meet seated in the next 5 breaths or so. If you feel like flowing yourself down towards the ground through a sun salutation, you're welcome to start that now. If you just simply want to ease yourself down to the ground, that's what I'm going to be doing. We'll meet seated in a few breaths from now. Just a few breaths from now. Great. Lovely. Now we're going to do a supported seated hip opener of cobbler pose or Baddha Konasana, but against a wall. So I've got a wall behind me. You can move to a place where you have a wall. Now here are the props that you're going to need. One is the bolster. Secondly is something to sit on. For me, I've got my block. And then because it's just a little bit hard, I'm also going to put a little cover of a blanket over it. So what I've got here, just behind the blanket, so that you can see behind that bolster, got my block and then a blanket on top. And then my bolster here is going to be to support the hips and the knees. So here's what I mean. I'm going to sit on the support, bring the soles of the feet together, but have my bolster underneath. Now you can, of course, if you have two blocks instead, you can put them underneath the knees, the thighs, but the bolster can be quite nice to support really the whole inner thigh area. Now for me, I need to move back just a little bit so I can really feel the support of the wall. See if you can do that as well, leaning back, feeling the back of the head against the wall. Perhaps you might feel the backs of the shoulders, maybe the backs of the hips. It might feel good for you to feel the toes just lightly pressing against each other. And then relax. Try that a couple of times. Toes press into each other. And then relax. And one more. Toes press into each other. And relax. So intention here not being to go into our deepest hip opener that's possible, but finding a very gentle, supported, seated hip release. So staying upright here. And then the option could be to fold forward. So if we're working with clients where it's okay for them to fold forward, and what I mean by that is they don't have an issue with their back where it makes it uncomfortable to fold forward, or they don't have something like osteoporosis where it's contraindicated to fold forward, you might then just see, can I take that pretty tall, long spine and fold forward a little bit? And what I might notice as I do that, it's a little bit more increased stretch, release in the hips. So however you're seated, rather, if you're upright against the wall, or if you've leaned forward a little bit like me, take another breath or two like that. And start to find some rooting if you had folded forwards. What I mean by that is you might take your hands onto your legs or onto the bolster to root to rise, to press down, to slowly, slowly lift back up. Now our legs have been open to the side for a while in this external rotation, so let's take some time to take our hands to the outer part of the thighs and the knees and just lovingly guide them back together. Right, then straighten out the legs, give them a little bit of a shake. Now we're going to be lying down for the rest of our practice. So you can first just consider, would I like to get a little comfier, cozier, warmer? If so, you can put on some socks or an extra layer. Now, have please nearby, one of my massage balls has rolled away, so I'm going to grab it. Please have your massage balls nearby, as well as your bolster and your weight, that sandbag or bag of rice. Now, I'm going to start by finding my head support. And so my head support here again is my blanket. I have my massage balls with it, and I'll just lie down. Go ahead and lie down with me. And then as you lie down, see what would feel good. So maybe it's knees in towards the chest, maybe for some little circles or a little rock from side to side. Maybe it's hip circles where you separate the knees, push them away from the chest and back towards each other. Now we've done quite a bit for hip stability, really working on increasing the muscular action of the side hip muscles. So let's spend some time releasing them now. We're going to work with figure 4 with massage balls. So what I mean by that is I'm lifting up my hips, my bum, and then I'm placing my massage balls on either side of the hips. I'm trying to get into the external rotator, the piriformis muscle. Now it might feel pretty good like this, and I can just do a little side to side motion. So I have a little massage. Another thing that can feel delightful is going into figure 4 where you cross one ankle over the opposite knee. It's kind of similar to what we did in the windshield wipers, just that we're on our back now. Now we can sometimes, as we do this, get a fairly strong sensation in the hips. So if that sensation is disturbing to you, what I mean by that is if it's sharp or sort of electric, or if that pain sort of travels, it's an indication that this might not be the best release for you to do. What you can do instead is remove those massage balls. Come into figure 4 by lifting the bottom foot up. Hands can interlace in some way. Or another thing, if that doesn't work for some folks, if they try and interlace, what it does is brings up their head because the muscles up here in the shoulders aren't quite loose enough. What you can do instead is put a block underneath the foot, like I've done here, or even a bolster underneath. Another option is to bring that foot up and place it against a wall. So I here have an imaginary wall that I'm pressing my foot into. It's another way we can come into that same sort of release. So I'm inviting you here to find a variation of figure 4 that feels releasing, comfortable, supportive for the hips. So maybe it's massage balls, maybe it's foot lifted, maybe it's just rocking. Something else I sometimes like to try is lifting the foot up, then just rolling a little bit of a circle. That can sometimes feel nice for the hips. Okay. Yeah, and if you're really enjoying massage, and massage just feels delicious, it feels delightful, you can keep working with that massage. Good. Yeah, beautiful. Then you can see how it is to switch sides. I'm going to bring my massage balls back now. I'll cross the opposite ankle over my figure 4 and do a little rock from side to side. Yeah, if this feels great with those massage balls, you can absolutely continue like that, little rocking from side to side, or moving into any other movements that feel good. Massage balls aren't feeling that great for you. Instead, you can remove them, bring a foot up, so you either have it against a wall, or you can work with a little bit of circles. So it can be helpful after we work to contract muscles to make them work, to then spend some time releasing them afterwards. Gentle stretch or gentle massage. Good. Spend a little bit more time on this side, working in a way that feels comfortable, releasing, pleasurable for you. Good. Another few full breaths like that. A little gentle massage, gentle release. Beautiful. Now, if you do have massage balls like I do, you can first just uncross the leg, take those massage balls out, place them to the side, and then see what else would feel good. So we're going into rest next. So you can see maybe a little windshield wiper knees feels good. Maybe something else. Great. Now, for our rest, I'm going to give you a couple of options. And first, I'll just demonstrate them to you, and then you can decide what feels best for me. So there's quite a nice hip psoas release that we can do with a little bit of weight on the body. where we bring the legs to bent to a 90-degree position against the wall. Now, here's what I mean by that. I'll demonstrate it. I'll demonstrate it to the side as if this stool here is a wall, so you can see it. Now, what it is I lie on the ground with my knees bent. So imagine, again, please, the stool is a wall rather than a stool. Just want you to be able to see me from the side. So I lie on the ground, so I more or less have the thigh bones straight up and down or perpendicular, more or less straight up and down or perpendicular. Now, from there, what I can do is experiment. How would it feel then to put some weight on those lower legs? So a bolster can be really great for that. Now, sometimes people find when they put the legs on the wall like this, you can go ahead and try it now and just sort of see how it is for you. Sometimes they find a little gripping actually in the inner hips. Something that can help then is so I have my weight, bringing that sandbag into that low belly, front of hips area. And for many folks, this will just help to take that contraction, that discomfort away. So you can try that. Feet on the wall, bolster on lower legs, and then sandbag or rice on the low belly. That's one option. I'm just going to come out of this so I can show you the other option. Now, if that doesn't feel good, and you've tried it for a little bit and you think, oh yeah, this gripping isn't really going away, what you can do instead is try legs on a chair. So it's really the exact same positioning. It's just you have some support from underneath. You have some support from underneath. So I'm just going to grab a chair so that I can show you. It's just off my mat, so I'll just go and grab it. And so what it would be is setting up that exact same release, putting a chair in place of the wall. So here's what I mean. I've got my chair now on the mat. I place my lower legs there so they're supported. And then I put the bolster on top. Now I still might enjoy, if I'm doing that variation, that sandbag on my low belly. Or another thing I could try even is, gosh, it might even feel good to put extra weight on the legs. I could even try that. So options here, to be clear, we have the legs on the wall, knees bent, so feet are on the wall, bolster on top, maybe sandbag on the belly. If that doesn't feel comfortable, if you're not feeling like you're getting any kind of release, any sense of support, what you can do instead is try legs on a chair with weight, just like I am setting up here. Now, it's also fine for you to just choose one for this practice, and then you can choose the other for another practice. Just take a little bit of time first to set yourself up. And you can decide where does a weight feel good, even experimenting with it. It's really checking that however it is that you're bringing yourself, you can feel fairly supported, fairly released. Letting go of some of that effort. So gradually finding yourself in a position, in a shape, we can once again draw your awareness to the physical body, noticing perhaps where the physical body makes contact with the ground, the earth, the mat, the wall or chair. And perhaps even finding a few full releasing breaths. Might even feel good to exhale out the mouth a few times, maybe little sighs. And hands might naturally want to come back down to that area of the front of the hips or out to the side. Taking time to support yourself just exactly as you are right now. It's not needing to change, to switch anything at all. Seeing in this moment, can I support myself fully? Feel free at any time to switch positions, to adjust, to shift. And then let's take some time to return to that idea of Sva, that Svadhisthana chakra, that sacred home within yourself, which is really that area that governs the hips. Svadhisthana chakra, the sacred home within yourself. That element of water, that fluid quality. You might even visualize breath in the area of the hips, low belly, sacrum. Water flowing through. Knowing if you find a spot that feels a little resistant to that idea of flow or water, it's okay. You might even visualize that area like a river or stream with a stone or a rock. Knowing that over time, as we breathe into this area, just as over time, water flows over that river, rock, or stone, it smooths. It gradually begins to get in the flow. Hard edges are smoothed. Rough areas are smoothed. So all we do now is we just breathe. Now, however you are, just as perfectly, exactly as you are, take in a few breaths and release out a few breaths. And then in your own time, no rush at all, taking your time, start to invite in a little bit of movement, maybe through the jaw, the fingers, or the toes. Maybe a little stretch through the arms. Now we all have our legs in some way, either against the wall or on the chair. So what I invite you to do is slowly bring your knees in towards you, just so that you can take that weight off. So what I'm doing here is I'm bringing my knees in towards me. I've got my bolster and my sandbag. First, just gonna place it onto my tummy because it's quite heavy. Then I'll bring my sandbag to the side. And I'll bring my bolster off to the side. Yeah. Then you can see how it would be to bring the knees in towards your chest or even straighten them up. Might feel good. They've been bent for a while, maybe a little pointing and flexing. And then what we'll do is we'll transition. So I invite you to roll over to one side first. Take a few breaths, rolled off to the side. You might even support your head and curl your knees in towards your chest. And then as you feel ready, in your own time, slowly gently, very lovingly support yourself to come up to seated. Now, come to sit however feels good for you. I'm going to choose to sit on my knees. You sit however feels good for you. An invitation here as you come to seated to bring the hands to the heart. The fingers to lightly touch and sides of the thumbs to root against the seat of the heart. We can close our practice here with 3 shared breaths. So first, please exhale. Release the breath to let go. And then inhale, breathe deep into the space of the heart. Exhale out the mouth. Again, inhale into the heart. Exhale out the mouth. And one more breath, just like that. Please softly bow your head over your fingertips. You're symbolically releasing the thoughts of the mind into the space of the heart. So infusing all thoughts with the qualities of the heart, love, compassion, and forgiveness. Let's take another breath, lifting the heart to the mind. And then as you exhale, slowly peel open your eyes, softly lift your gaze. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me. Thank you.